Mr. Clerk, how about ring the bell? Let's get our folks in here, and we can get started on our next House bill. Pretty important one. If you'll ring the bell. All right, all members, please come into the chamber. All members come into the chamber and look for your seat. This would be the appropriate time to do all of that. What day is this? Day 40. Day 40. That's 80. There you go. That's what day it is. Day 40. Thank you, members. Hope you had a good lunch. Nobody needs to take a nap. We've got some important business to take care of this afternoon. So with that, I'm going to recognize Representative Matt Hatchett for a motion. Chairman Hatchett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that this House agree to the Conference Committee report for House Bill 68.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to the Conference Committee report?
The Committee of Conference on House Bill 68 recommends that both the House of Representatives and the Senate recede from their positions and that the attached Committee of Conference substitute to House Bill 68 be adopted. Respectfully submitted, Honorable Matt Hatchett, Representative of 155th District, Honorable Jan Jones, Representative 47th District, Honorable Chuck Efstration, Representative 104th District. For the Senate, Honorable Blake Tillery, Senator, 19th District, Honorable John F. Kennedy, Senator, 18th District, and the Honorable Stephen Gooch, Senator, 51st District.
The gentleman is recognized to explain the Conference Committee report.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I call Tyrone, I'd like to take a moment of...
The gentleman will suspend. I don't know anything about any Tyrone.
I thought I'd just loosen things up here a little bit.
You best be careful, though, Tyrone, is all I'm going to tell you.
So,
okay, the gentleman's recognized.
Thank you. I would like to take a moment of personal privilege and introduce 3 pages that I have today. 2 of my pages is their 3rd and 2nd year for doing that, and they happen to be the children of our budget office, the director, Christine Murdoch. Her children, Maya and Miles Murdoch. Stand up. How about that? I'm sure they'll get me back for that one day. And the other is Miss Danica Risha. She's from Milledgeville, but her mother grew up in Dublin and moved to Milledgeville for some reason. But she has been paging for us at least once and on several sine dies, but this is her 7th year paging. Danica, stand up. Thank you. Y'all, it's been a journey to get to this point on the FY26 budget, but we have arrived. And I believe that we worked with our partners in the Senate and the governor's office to craft a budget for for the next fiscal year that both meets the needs of Georgians and lives within our means. Based on interest earnings at Treasury to date, the governor has increased the revenue estimate this morning by $50.4 million. This additional recognition of revenue helped us close gaps in the budget where the General Assembly sought to ensure that the base was correct for programs with higher than anticipated utilization, like out-of-home care and DHS. It also allowed the General Assembly to maintain its additional support for enhancements in corrections and education. As I told you when the budget left this House, the budget is highly focused on public safety and education. That position still holds in the conference committee version. There are a number of items that you won't see on your differences sheet because the Senate agreed with the House position, like $22.7 million, including $10 million in newly appropriated funds for recommendations by the Georgia Council on Literacy, and adds in corrections for new correctional officer positions in state prisons and technology upgrades. There were a number of differences between the House and the Senate that did not have to be resolved. Decisions like whether or not to utilize bonds or fully fund the promised scholarship were never policy differences with the governor or the Senate. Rather, they were simply different strategies employed to balance the budget. Here are a few highlights of differences in the budget as it left this chamber and as the conference committee has recommended them. The House agreed with the Senate and the governor to utilize cash for one more year to fund capital projects. There are no bonds in the final version of the budget. The conference committee returns to the governor's position of funding the promised scholarship at 1% of QBE earnings, or $141 million. I know many of you have been receiving updates on the number of applications and know that of the 10,000 applications started, 5,100 have been deemed eligible for the scholarship to date, and that's as of today. This full funding allows for more than 21,000 students the opportunity to participate in the program. We've spent a lot of time perfecting the school safety legislation. Funding for the S3 database that was included in the House version of the budget has been removed, and the conference committee version includes $6.9 million for reimbursable grants for qualified student advocacy specialists as authorized in House Bill 268. I've heard from many of you who were concerned about APEX. The Senate had moved the funding for APEX to the Department of Education for mental health services. We understand that that funding mechanism would not have worked to continue the successful program. So in the conference committee version, the $9.2 million in APEX funding is restored to DBHDD. Funding for the new Student Support Services program at DOE is preserved, albeit at a slightly lower number. This includes nearly $20 million for mental health support grants for middle and high schools, and $2.3 million to provide funds for school systems that, due to their size, do not earn full funding for a school social worker. The Senate added to the out-of-school care grants, or Boost 2.0, bringing the total to $12.5 million. Finally, one of the items that I'm most proud of in this budget is the poverty weight. It's funded at $15.2 million. These funds will impact more than 94,000 students in 59 school systems, with more than 40% of their students meeting direct certification poverty criteria. In health care, we were able to make a number of improvements to Medicaid rates. Ultimately, we were not able to include all the adjustments requested, but adjustments were made for primary care physicians, dental codes, applied behavior analysts, neonatologists, and maternal fetal medicine, and to provide EMS reimbursements upon patient pickup. Rural Georgia is always on our mind. To help address health care needs, the House and Senate have provided $3.9 million to expand the newborn add-on payment for Medicaid delivery services in rural Georgia. These funds will provide a $2,000 add-on payment for a total of $3,000 per delivery in rural counties with a population of less than 35,000. And in rural counties with a population between 35,000 and 50,000, there will be a $1,500 add-on payment. While the amended budget was the vehicle for Hurricane Helene relief, this budget includes one other item tied to HB 223, which is $17.3 million for a grant for local governments to provide reimbursements for timber severance taxes not collected. In the Department of Agriculture, a number of reductions from the Senate version have been restored, including an emergency management specialist position and 2 meat inspector positions. The Senate also agreed to set up a fund with the Forestry Commission to provide speedier overtime payments to our forest land firefighters who are frontline responders when natural disasters occur across our country. This was an important priority for many of you. Also important to a number of you was maintaining the 2% provider rate increase for child caring institutions, child placing agencies, foster parents, and relative caregivers. These agencies and people are meeting a need for our state and the youth in their care, and it was important to recognize the increased costs they're incurring. The House has added to the governor's recommendation for the now comp waivers, and the Senate agreed to the House position to fund a total of 150 new slots. In the conference committee version of the budget, the Department of Correction receives an infusion of $200 million over the current budget. This is $75 million more than the governor's original recommendations. Both the House and the Senate agree on staffing and safety increases. However, the House went further and wanted to recognize the increased costs for food and health care in the base budget, but ultimately we recognize that some of these additions are multi-year process and can be adjusted next year. The Commissioner has been a good partner, and we appreciate that he always picked up the phone whenever we needed to just call Tyrone. Finally.
Gentleman's out of order.
Finally. Boosting the financial stability of the employees' retirement system has been a priority of many in this chamber, and we've worked hard in the budget over several years to boost the long-term outlook of the system, while also addressing the needs of state retirees who gave service to our state. While not as high as initially recommended by the House, the conference committee version of the budget includes an additional $10 million to ERS to increase the one-time supplement payment that retirees receive. Mr. Speaker, that's a very high-level review of the most significant changes in the budget since it left this chamber first. This document and the accompanying highlights have been on your desk since about 10:40 this morning. I appreciate the opportunity to work on this budget on behalf of you and the citizens of this state. I want to thank our colleagues in the Senate, Rick Dunn and Lauren Curry in the governor's office, the subcommittee chairs, and the greatest budget staff in the country for all of their hours they put in to get this document before you to this place. And before I go call Tyrone again, I'll take some questions.
I've got to gather myself after you called Tyrone. Gentleman's going to yield for some questions, as I
Yes, sir,
understand
Mr.
that, right?
Speaker.
Let's recognize Representative Berry to your left, about 2/3 of the way back on the left.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this budget increases the Hope Equalization Grant for our HBCUs, which is a crucial benefit for our HBCU students, but there is still not further true to do more for full Hope parity for our HBCU students in the state?
I believe that is correct.
Thank you for this
Thank
bill.
you.
Representative Jasmine Clark to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
I'm using the tracking sheet for this. On 145.7, when it's talking about the voucher program, it references SB 82, which I believe is the bill that we just passed that compels local school systems to not deny the charter school petitions. And in that bill, we said the state will give you $250,000 in startup costs. It looks like we only appropriated $500,000.
And that's 145.7, correct?
Yeah.
We did appropriate $500,000. This is a grant program, as we do in many items through the budget. You never know how many will apply. So this allows, if we do have two that apply between now and, say, amended, we do have the money to do what we have said we would do in the bill.
Right, but if we have three, then they would not get the 250.
They'll just
It'll
have
be
to
divided
wait.
by
Yeah,
three
yeah,
instead of two.
No, we will. They will be funded at 250. They just may have to wait a little while.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Representative Lupton to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Thank you for working so hard on our budget. Is it not true that on 228.4, line 228.4, we have, although I am a little disappointed that we did not end up with the $8.1 million to fund for the fall off of Victims of Crime Act money. We have settled on $3.1 million to give to victims of crime, sexual assault centers, things like that, which is more than the governor's recommendation. Is that not
is
true?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. It is, I think this is something that we need to all remember and consider from now on, that, we are the state, and we cannot replace all federal funds if they go away. So we have helped them and propped them up for a little while.
Representative Stinson in the back to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, to my favorite strawberry queen.
Thank you. Is it not true that my seatmate standing with me wanted to say that she really appreciate you calling Tyrone, but you can't use her phone? Is that not true?
I believe I've heard that before.
We
I
thank you
won't
for
say
your
the
work.
rest of the song. I might get thrown out of here.
We thank you for your work on the budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker.
Representative Holcomb
Okay.
has a question. Mr. Chairman, if you'll take his question, and you have
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes.
Our budget is predicated on a revenue estimate, and I think it's fair to say that since we reconvened in January, the macroeconomic picture has changed pretty dramatically in just over the last few days. The Atlanta Federal Reserve estimates that we're likely to see a negative drop of 2.8% in GDP for this quarter, and JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs both state that the probability of a recession now is quite high because of the recently imposed tariffs, which represent the largest tax increase since 1968. So my question is, how comfortable are you with the probability that the revenue estimates that make this budget will hold throughout the year?
Well, I'm not an economist, and I don't play one on TV, but you are correct. I believe that things have changed and are changing. I would think that I would think this budget could stand if there are huge swings. Then our role is, this is our number one job.
Yes.
And I don't think anybody in here we could not object to coming back and correcting something that all of a sudden, unforeseen by us, we have to correct.
Thank you.
So, Mr. Speaker, with that, I would ask for the body's favorable consideration, and I will yield the well.
The gentleman's yielded the well. Are you suggesting that I should call Tyrone? I can't use your phone. I don't have his number, so we'll move on from that one. The gentleman has yielded the well. On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on House Bill 68, all in favor of the adoption of the Conference Committee report will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? For what purpose does Representative Park Cannon rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that on today, the commemoration of the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., this budget includes a cut to the King Center?
Yes, I think I saw that in that line, and I know the chairman had worked diligently to maintain those numbers, and I think he's going to shed some light on that for us. So, for what purpose does Chairman Hatchett rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that that particular line item for the Martin Luther King Center is a 125 increase to a line item that approaches $1 million a year?
I'm sure the gentleman has watched that over the years, and it's embedded in our budget, and we're continuing to support an institution that's important to our state and our country. For what purpose does Representative Reese rise?
Mr. Speaker, parliamentary inquiry. Derek.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it true? I'm not sure, so I'm asking you. Is it true that the budget chair is singing calling Tyrone because when he went in a conference meeting, he told the governor and the Senate, I'm getting tired of your...
Gentleman knows there's one more signature that has to occur on this budget. I'm not going there. Have all members now voted? All members voted. If so, for what purpose Representative Barnes rise?
Parliamentary inquiry. Thank you.
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that based on the budget, there is a reduction in nutrition funds, but only because as many kids as we fed last year does not need to be fed this year?
That's a true success story, and I know the chairman has worked hard on those funds, and that's very close to his heart and his mind to ensure, as well as it is to this House as well. Have all members now voted?
Thank you.
If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the adoption of the Conference Committee report on HB 68, the yeas are 170, the nays are 5. And the Committee of Conference report is adopted. Members, I want to thank the members of the staff of HPRO, all the committee sub-chairs, the committee members, and this House for standing behind the great priorities of this House to make sure we took care of all these hard-working Georgians. Chairman Hatchett, especially want to thank you, your dedication, and your commitment to the people of Georgia getting this budget out. Thank you, sir. Mr. Leader, Majority Leader Estration, I think our work's done here. What do you think?
I'm ready to make the motion when you give me the word.
I think we could get unanimous on that one. That's not a motion, that's an emotion. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and staff. Chairman Wiedauer is recognized for a motion. Give the gentleman the well your attention, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that we agree to the Senate substitute to Senate Bill 630.
House bill or Senate bill?
House Bill 630.
House Bill 630. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 630 to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 47 of Title 43 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to used motor vehicle and used motor vehicle parts dealers.
Chairman Wiedauer is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Y'all, this is the licensure bill dealing with used motor vehicle dealers and used motor vehicle parts. It had a little rider on it, and the Senate decided they didn't want to ride no more. That's all I got. I yield the will.
The gentleman has no questions, and he's yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion, the House agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 630. All those in favor will say yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members voted? All members voted. On the gentleman's motion, if the clerk will close the machine, lock the machines. On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 173, the nays are 1, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 630. Chairman Corbett is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I make a motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 371.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 371 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 22-260 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to capital outlay funds generally under the Quality Basic Education Act.
Chairman Corbett is recognized to explain the Senate substitute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Section 1 of the bill is the original section, and all we did there was just raise the state's maximum authorization for capital outlay funding from $300 million to $375. That was the original bill that we passed. Section 2 of the bill, the Senate substitute, it just ensures that any new elementary school built after July 1, 2027, which includes a playground, meets modern accessibility standards, creating truly inclusive play spaces for all children. And that's the change in the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
The gentleman has no further question. The gentleman has no questions. He's yielded the well. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 371, all those in favor will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members voted? All members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machines? On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 168, the nays are 3, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 371. Representative Gaines is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 370 as amended by the House.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 370 to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 48534 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem property tax bill forms.
Representative Gaines is recognized to explain his motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The caption of the bill and the bill that's before you are certainly different. The original House Bill 370 was incorporated into House Bill 92, so that is no longer what House Bill 370 is. What the amendment you have on your desk does is it removes any existing language from House Bill 370 and adds in the vape registry bill that this House passed in House Bill 577, 159 to 12. Earlier this session. It's exactly the same as what we have already considered in this body. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to answer a question if there is one.
The gentleman has a couple of questions. Representative Al, and then back to your left. Representative Al.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
Isn't it true that this substitute that's on this bill now is being pushed by the tobacco lobby in an effort to create a monopoly on the sale of vaping products?
No, and in fact, I'll tell you, just 2 days ago, the Supreme Court ruled on this matter and made it clear that what the FDA has done to try to regulate vaping, the FDA's acted properly. And instead what this is trying to do is to get under control the massive influx of illegal disposable Chinese vape products. And my hope is this House will once again overwhelmingly approve this bill.
Gentleman, further yield?
Sure.
Representative Stacey Evans to your left is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I do.
I want to just make sure, the way I read it, there's nothing in this bill anymore that requires local school boards to put anything on bills. Doesn't affect them at all. Is that correct?
100%. That's all removed from the bill.
Thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the well and ask the body to join us in trying to get this vaping crisis under control. Thank you.
The gentleman answered all his questions and he's yielded the well. Is there any objection to adoption of the House amendment? Hearing none, the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate substitute to House Bill 307 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 141, the nays are 31, and the House has agreed to the Senate substitute to House Bill 370 as amended by the House. Tried to trick me. Representative Chastain is recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to agree to the Senate amendment as amended by the House on HB 491.
Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption?
House Bill 491 to be entitled Act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 3 to Article 2 of Chapter 4 of Title 27 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated related to hunting and non-commercial fishing.
Representative Chastain is recognized to explain the Senate amendment and the House amendment. Gentleman is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 491 passed the House last week, actually, 171 to 2. This is the air gun and the airbow bill. This substitute actually just strikes through the Senate amendment and makes the bill exactly like it was when we presented it last week in the House. And that's the amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman has a question. Representative Cameron. To your
Gentleman
right.
yield.
On your right.
Does this take out the extension of the deer season?
Yes, sir, it does.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Gentleman, you for one more question?
Yes.
The whip of this House. Representative Park is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
So essentially this will go back to the underlying bill, which was just about catfish.
Which was what?
About catfish?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Air
thank
guns
you,
and airbows. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Bipartisan support for catfish.
Yes, sir.
Certainly here in this
Thank
body.
you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We won't go about catfish again. We did that one. Representative Roman is recognized for a question. To your left, up the center aisle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Just as a follow-up to that, did we figure out if catfish are endangered or not since the last time we spoke
They're
about
not
this?
endangered. No, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Good answer. I'm glad you yielded the well, because that one had gone deep six last time. Is there any objection to the adoption of the House amendment? Hearing none, the House amendment is adopted. On the gentleman's motion that the House agree to the Senate amendment to House Bill 491 as amended by the House, all those in favor will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machines? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machines? On the gentleman's motion, the yeas are 170 and nays are 0, and the House has agreed to the Senate amendment to House Bill 491 as amended by the House. Members, we'll move on to the rules calendar. I'm going to ask the clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 10, Senate Bill 10?
Senate Bill 10 by Senator Goodman of the 8th and others be titled an act to amend Code Section 1562 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to the number of judges of superior courts so as to provide for an additional judge of the superior courts of the Lawmakers Judicial Circuit. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary. That committee recommends that this bill do pass by Rules Committee substitute.
Representative Trey Kelly is recognized to present Senate Bill 10.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I bring before you SB 10, which was originally a bill that was going to add a new judge to the Arapahoe Circuit. That measure was already passed by Representative Ford, and so it will no longer be needed, and so we use it as a vehicle for judicial officers in circuits that have over 15 superior court judges to help improve efficiency throughout the process. Mr. Speaker, it's a simple bill, passed the Judiciary Committee unanimously with bipartisan support. I would ask for your favorable consideration. I'll be glad to take any questions.
The gentleman has no questions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to withdrawing the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute offered by the Committee on Rules? Hearing none, the Rules Committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of Senate Bill 10, the yeas are 161, the nays are 7. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to House Resolution 347? 347.
House Resolution 347. A resolution urging all high schools to establish flag football programs for girls. This resolution having been assigned to the Committee on Special Rules. That committee recommends that this resolution be adopted.
Representative Brent Cox is recognized to present House Resolution 347.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I come to you as an urging resolution from this body that we encourage all Georgia high school athletic programs in this state to start girls flag football. The day we dropped this resolution, we have since had 34 high schools start participating in creating their new girls high school football. Currently, there's 457 schools in GHSA, 307 of which are currently participating, over 9,000 girls. In 1972 is when Title IX occurred, and that was the origin of when flag football began in this country. This has gained some great recognition. If you'll look up on the board, the Arthur Blank Foundation and the Atlanta Falcons currently are offering a grant, and I encourage any one of you, we have 150 high schools left to get programs going, and you can, the QR code, and you can get that information and get it back to your high schools. But they're offering $5,000 to $10,000 grants to each school to help them start it. Y'all, coming up in Los Angeles is the Olympics. They're going to be offering flag football. This is an incredible opportunity for our high school students to potentially become future Olympians. The Falcons, the NFL, all are fully behind in supporting this. Our local sports broadcasters are fully behind this. We will be the first legislators across the country to do this. So I ask for your favorable support and strongly encourage you, let's get 100% support across this state. Mr. Speaker, I yield for any questions.
You have several. Representative Wilkerson, to your left in the back, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do.
Is it not true that the McEachern High School Indians flag football team is one of the top-ranked teams in the state? Or actually, the nation, and they are state champions. Is that not true, my friend?
I do believe you're 100% correct.
To your left, Representative Jasmine Clark is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do.
Is it not true that I love watching our girls play flag football? And while we are urging schools, I would also urge us to consider how much it costs to actually have these types of sports at schools, and hopefully we can get funding so that we can help these schools start these flag football programs.
I understand, and that's where Arthur Blank and his foundation has poured into our community to do such things as that through private money, and I urge you to create resolutions to move forward with it as well.
Representative Schofield is recognized for a question to your right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do.
I really like this program, and I clicked on the link, and is it not true that you said that they're looking for more ways for other schools to engage or more funding? Maybe I missed something?
We're looking for the remaining 150, at least in GHSA, to finish out and starting their programs, and that they can use this grant money to help start their programs. There's currently 307.
Okay, because I'm looking at the form right now, and it says, thanks for your interest, but it's closed. We're no longer accepting new submissions. That's what it says. I clicked on the link.
I will check and see, but right now I know that the Arthur Blank Foundation and the Atlanta Falcons are fully behind this.
All right, thanks.
The gentleman, I had a conversation with GHSA yesterday, and they were wide open. They're looking, and then the Blank Atlanta Falcons are certainly behind it.
Right.
Representative Richardson is recognized for a question.
Gentleman,
to your right. Yes.
Yes, sir, I do.
Is it not true that Greenbrier High School in Columbia County has not won back-to-back state championships?
I know that you know what you're talking about coming from Augusta.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, if there's no more questions, I'll yield the well.
You do have another question.
Okay.
Representative Franklin, to your left, is recognized for a question.
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that Southeast Bullock has won five back-to-back state championships? And that is it also not true that I think Southeast Bullock flag football team can beat all y'all's flag football team?
Well, there we go. Where's Tyrone? Let's see. A gentleman that knows about football, Representative Dewey McLean, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The gentleman yield.
Yes, I do, sir.
Isn't it true that I support this program, and I know that the Atlanta Falcons Foundation, as well as Arthur Blank, has put a lot of money in making sure that girls flag football succeed?
Absolutely 100% correct. Thank you for what you've done for us as well with the Falcons.
And thank you for bringing this resolution.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, any more questions, Mr. Speaker?
You've got a whole bunch, several. Representative, you want one more? Representative Barrett,
Okay.
to your left, is recognized for a question.
Okay, last one, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, I do.
In the spirit of this awesome program that you're endorsing and so energetically behind, would you consider encouraging the first annual House versus Senate flag football game?
I think that is a great idea, and we can continue the softball, but let's bring flag football to the Capitol. I think it's a great idea, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well, and I just called Tyrone, and he said, please leave. Thank you.
He just sent me his number, by the way. Thanks. Appreciate you, Mr. Commissioner. You're a good man. Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the adoption of the resolution? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this resolution now be adopted? All in favor of the adoption of the resolution will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the adoption of the resolution, the yeas are 172, the nays are 0. The resolution has received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore adopted. Mr. Clerk, would you read the caption of Senate Bill 101?
Senate Bill 101 by Senator Robertson, the 29th, to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 12 of Title 31 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to control of hazardous conditions, preventable diseases, and metabolic disorders. This bill having referred to the Committee on Public and Community Health, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative David Clark is recognized to present Senate Bill 101. Representative Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I bring today Senate Bill 101. It was the language in that bill originally was House Bill 87. We passed 171 to 2. It has to do with the orthotics and prosthetics, so that everybody can movement that a lot of y'all met, Elliot and Jared Wallace and Mohammed Massaquah. And so the sponsor, who has Senate Bill 101, allowed me to remove his language and put my language in there. LC.
Gentleman has no questions. Oh, you're not done? I'm sorry. That's my bad.
And with that, I ask for your favorable consideration and vote yes. I'll be glad to take any questions.
The gentleman does have a couple of questions. Representative Park, to your Whip Park, right in front of you to your left, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the gentleman's earlier bill with respect to prosthetics. Do you have the LC number by any chance, just to make sure that members are voting and understanding the right version of this bill?
I do not have the LC number in my head right now to be able to quote it.
We'll help you with that in just a moment.
Thank you, sir. But this is with respect to prosthetics, not to the muscular dystrophy.
Yeah, Senate Bill 101 only has House Bill 87 language in there. We removed the Senate Bill 101 language that came from the Senate, and we added House Bill 87. And I talked with the sponsor, and he's in agreement, and was sent to the Senate, and then he'll agree to it, and we'll pass it to the governor's desk.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Schofield is recognized for a question to your right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
I yield.
As soon as we get the LC number situated, is it not true that this is one of the best bills that you and I worked on that will pass today?
Yes, ma'am, and thank you for all your help.
Mr. Whip, it's LC 600167S.
All right,
Representative Cooper is recognized for a question in the back on your right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Will the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it not true that that bill came out of my committee and that I okayed the removal of what was in the original bill and let you put in your bill?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
With that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well and ask for your favorable consideration of Senate Bill 101. Thank you.
Gentleman had no further questions. He's yielded the well. Representative Bennett is recognized to speak in favor of the bill. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, I rise today in strong support of Senate Bill 101 as substituted by the House Committee on Public and Community Health. This legislation addresses a fundamental issue of equity, access, and dignity in our healthcare system. Senate Bill 101 ensures that Georgians who rely on orthotic and prosthetic devices can live a full, independent lives, maximize their rehabilitation, maximize their functional capacity. Let me be clear. These devices are not luxuries. They are not cosmetic. They are medically necessary for function. We are talking about artificial limbs, custom designs, supports, and mobility aids that enable our fellow citizens to walk, work, play, bathe, care for their families, and anything that you do, they will be able to do. And yet, too often, coverage for these essential devices is either denied or limited by outdated policies that don't reflect the real needs of the people that we serve. Senate Bill 101 changes that. It requires health benefit policies in Georgia to provide coverage for orthotic and prosthetic devices when they are medically necessary. It ensures this coverage supports not just survival, but quality of life, covering devices that enable physical activity, personal hygiene, and essential job functions. This bill, colleagues, brings Georgia in line with national clinical standards. It recognizes that a joint may need to be replaced when a person's body changes, and that a limb may need more than one device over a period of time and at any one time. It includes not just the device itself, but the education, the training, the fittings, and the repairs, everything a person needs to be effective in their mobility. Importantly, Senate Bill 101 sets reasonable limits, no more than 3 devices per limb over 3 years, and it allows insurers to deny coverage for misuse or theft. This is a balanced approach, and to my colleagues concerned about cost, I hear you, but consider this. Restoring mobility reduces long-term health care expenses, it reduces secondary conditions, prevents hospitalizations, and increases employment and mobility ability. It empowers Georgians to live to their full capacity. And colleagues, I ask that the members of this body do vote in favor of Senate Bill 101, because today we have a chance to say, we see you, we value you, and we are not going to let insurance companies stand in the way of our rights to live a full and healthy life. I urge your favorable consideration, and I respectfully ask for your yes vote on Senate Bill 101. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
Nice job. The lady has yielded the well. That concludes the speakers on the bill. We do have a minority report. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. We do have a minority report. Representative Park Cannon is recognized for up to 20 minutes for the minority report.
I don't need that long. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. I want to be very clear. This minority report is not about the substance of what this bill does for our communities that need this health benefit. This minority report is specifically about an efficient government and a process to understand what happens once we do this. Walk with me through this. Any plan starting in 2026, private plans in the state of Georgia, must provide this access. So 2026, 2027, 2028, 2029, 2030. So that's a set of 5 years of data. On line 112, it speaks to those 5 years. So thank you in the bill for speaking directly about what we want this report to include. But on line 105, it says that the report is not due until July 1st, 2032. The questions that we asked in committee was, if this is such an important piece of legislation that so many of us agree with, why would we request that a department give us a report 2.5 years later? So again, we're hopeful that there will be some work on this legislation to bring that report sooner and to make sure that those who are receiving this health care benefit have timely processing. We want to thank those who have publicly stated that they will continue to work to get the state health benefit plan to also participate in this, as currently this measure does not include it. And that's all that we have. I will be voting in favor of this measure, but wanted to be clear that this minority report is about process and making our government more efficient with the number of claims submitted, the number of claims paid, and the total amount that it costs for our state. Thank you, and I yield.
That concludes the speakers on the minority report. The lady has yielded the well. We don't have anyone taking this chairman's time, so we're going to move on. Is there any objection to adopting the committee's substitute? Hearing none, the committee's substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of Senate Bill 101, the yeas are 167, the nays are 2. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption of Senate Bill 204? Mr. Clerk, will you suspend just for a moment? I want to recognize a former member of this House who has had a distinguished career in this legislature and in state government, my friend Jay Neal. Let's welcome Jay Neal to this People's House back. Former member Jay Neal. Mr. Clerk, I apologize, Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption, Senate Bill 204?
Senate Bill 204 by Senator Jones, the 22nd, to be entitled an act to amend Code Section 1770.1 of the Official Code of Georgia Annotated relating to trial upon accusations in certain felony and misdemeanor cases and trial upon plea of guilty or nolo contendere. This bill having referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Chairman Alan Powell is recognized to present Senate Bill 204.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I bring to you this afternoon Senate Bill 204. There's two sections of this bill, which normally is the things that we see in the latter days that we combine bills. So I bring these to you today. First section that you'll be looking at is reinforcing the preemption clauses that this General Assembly has passed over the years about what those parts of the state law are that's important. And I would tell you right now that this is a reinforcement because it raises the penalties for those cities and counties and political subdivisions that may violate the preemption clause to the weapons law in this state. Now, a lot of people want to talk about that this is about the Second Amendment rights of people. This is more about keeping order in the administration of the laws in this state. And I'll tell you a little bit about why this was brought over in the Senate. Apparently, we have one of the cities in the state that decided to pass a local ordinance that said that if you have a car, and I'm not sure, quite frankly, if it was a car that was broke into, whether it was locked or unlocked, and if somebody stole your weapon, then they charge you a $1,000 fine. If you didn't report it within 24 hours, they charged you a secondary $1,000 fine. If you didn't pay that, then it's a 30-day penalty of incarceration. And it sounds like this may be a Second Amendment issue, but there's a bigger issue, and that is the preemption status of state laws. I will tell you, if you can imagine it, we have 600 plus political subdivisions in Georgia, cities, counties, towns. And if all of these cities and counties preempted state law, then we would live in a chaotic situation, ladies and gentlemen. So first and foremost, that's what this is really about. Yes, there's somewhat to the Second Amendment rights, because that seems to be one of the biggest issues that people want to talk about. But the bigger issue to me is the preemption. And I know a little bit about preemption. When I was a younger legislator, there was a legislator by the name of well, he may not want his name mentioned, but he and I passed the preemption law back in the mid-90s. And that preemption law said that if there was a violation, it was a $100 fine. Now, I can only tell you what I've been told. They put these $1,000 fines on there, and then it was reached out to the Attorney General to reach out to this particular city. And what came back was that we are getting a $1,000 penalty on these, so a $100 fine doesn't mean anything. Well, at that time, we thought 30-something years ago, we thought that $100 might have been a lot of money at that time. But apparently not. $100 then and $100 today isn't much reason for these cities to preempt the state law. So what we're doing today is what you see in front of you, and I'll go over the part, section 1 first. What we're saying is that if you have been subject to or aggrieved by an act, rule, or regulation, that you have a right to appeal to the courts. And if you're the prevailing plaintiff in that, then you and get injunctive relief, then there's a civil action which you can recover attorney's fees. It goes further to say that then we reduced it from the $50,000 penalty that came out of the Senate to $25,000. But actual damages, if you have actual damages, whichever is greater, plus the expenses of litigation and reasonable attorney fees, then you can collect. Or you can claim for liquidated damages of 3 times the amount of expenses. That is the message to send back, that preemption, we are the legislature, we are the state government, and we are the ones who write these laws, because if not, there would be absolute chaos that if you went through 600 different political subdivisions and all of them had a different law, we would be embroiled in more conflicts than you can imagine. Second part of the bill, ladies and gentlemen, this deals with the criminal procedures with district attorneys, and if these are offenses that are not considered of serious violent felonies, such as sexual felonies, violent felonies, if these are what they call minor felonies, then they can be prosecuted under an accusation without grand jury appearance. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what this bill does. I would implore you to consider it. I know that those people who have concerns, whatever they may be about the Second Amendment, I would tell you that go about it the right way and to allow the state of Georgia and the legislature to preempt and let our laws prevail. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the gist of this bill, and I'll be more than glad to stand for any questions, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlemen, has several questions. Representative Al, and she in the back to your left.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so far this session, the majority party has, number one, refused to grant a hearing to HB 1, a safe storage requirement. Number two, it's allowed HB 79, which offered a tax credit for purchase of safe storage equipment, to be gutted by the Senate. And number three, it now seeks to preempt local governments from enacting public safety measures involving safe storage, and in fact exposes them to a $25,000 penalty for such measures. So the question is, can you explain why the majority body continues to oppose interventions that prevent gun theft by criminals and would address the number one cause of death of kids and teenagers in this country?
To the good lady, I am not in that position of leadership to say why these individual bills haven't came up. I think that maybe some of them have been heard. I don't know what has and hasn't. I know that Georgia is a strong Second Amendment state. We've always believed in the right to bear arms. Most of us who have been on board of this issue for years, we promote safety, but that's all in the eyes of the beholder. This particular bill, to the lady, if I may, this particular bill, when I talk about the preemption, one of the things that's disturbing to me is that in this municipality I'm talking about, they want to charge $1,000 for somebody who has stolen your property. $1,000. Your motor vehicle in this state has always been treated under the Castle Doctrine as the same as your home. It's the same as your home. So if you have, your vehicle has been violated and someone has stole a weapon from it, and you're going to penalize them for being the victim, lady, ma'am, that's not justice. That is not justice. So the other question is a political question that you can only ask yourself why these other bills haven't come forward. There's two houses of the legislature, and let the process work.
One follow-up, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I'll just note that a safe storage requirement would prevent against gun theft, so that is a good thing to talk about as we move forward. I know you're just one person and you are not making all the decisions, but I'll just ask you as the bill sponsor primarily, would you support giving HB 1, the safe storage bill, a hearing and a vote next session?
I would like to see what's in the bill. I make no commitment on any bill until I read the bill and what I'm voting on.
Okay. It was the first bill filed this year, so you have plenty of time to read it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Gentleman, yield for a question from Representative Chastain. To your right, Representative Johnny Chastain.
Yes, sir.
Gentleman's recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true this bill protects lawful weapon carriers when their rights are violated by unconstitutional local ordinances?
You're absolutely right.
Gentleman, yield for a couple more.
Yes, sir. Glad to answer any question on such an important subject.
Representative McQueen, to your left, is recognized for a question. Ladies,
thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You see the yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
So isn't it true that this bill would prevent local lawmakers from passing legislation for gun owners to prevent reckless and negligent storage of firearms, to prevent unauthorized access to weapons?
That's fine, local lawmakers. This says that those local governments can't preempt state law. You are duly elected to the legislature of this state to pass laws of importance that affect everybody in the state. If we had 600 plus jurisdictions that just passed a mirage of laws, we would have chaos and no one would know exactly what the rules were of behavior. Thank you, ma'am.
Representative Jason Ridley, to your right, extreme right, is recognized for a question. Representative Ridley.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that this year that we had a House member that had a safe storage unit in his vehicle? They broke into his vehicle and didn't steal it then. 4 days later, they broke into it again and took crowbars and opened up his safe storage unit in his vehicle and stole his weapon. And if we didn't pass this in that one city, he'd be fined $1,000 even though he had his safety
I'm
storage
not
unit.
sure the exact language in that city I'm referring to, whether it's a locked car or an unlocked car. But I know that if you leave a weapon in a car, then you're subject to have a theft of that vehicle, of that weapon. We know that from experience that right here in Atlanta, that criminals will target certain vehicles. They love to target trucks, SUVs. In my tenure up here, I lost a couple of handguns over the years by driving my truck to town, because criminals, they know what to target. They're professionals. They broke into my vehicles, didn't get anything but my weapons, and I learned better. I learned to start carrying it in my pocket. Yes, you heard that right. And it's something that I don't like to talk about very much, because I've always said those people who talk so boisterous about carrying a weapon, they're the ones that will be the first victim of a criminal. But everyone has that right to protect themselves. But you also have a right not to be penalized for being a lawful citizen and a criminal taking advantage of you.
Gentleman, you yield for a question?
Certainly.
Representative Sanchez, to your right, is recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that the first 4 pages of this bill is essentially Senate Bill 163 by State Senator Colton Moore?
I think you're right.
Thank you.
And please don't hold that against me.
Representative Williamson is recognized for a question. To your right. To your right.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Is it not true that the core issue we're addressing here is of the 600 subdivisions of approximately 600 subdivisions of state government you've referred to, that they are not lawmakers? All they can do is pass ordinances, and this General Assembly is the only lawmaking body in the whole state. Is that
You're
not correct?
Absolutely right. The
Thank you for your efforts
cross-section
on
of
this
the
bill.
conscience of this state is what this body and the lower house, we're the cross-section. We are the state lawmakers, and the laws that we pass take prominence.
Further question?
Yes, sir.
If the gentleman yield.
Certainly.
Is it not true that many of these subdivisions have not figured that out yet? Is that the politicians sitting in those seats have not figured out the fact that they're not lawmakers? Is that not true?
You know, we live in a time that is nothing like I've seen in my lifetime politically. We have issues that people think that because they can't get justice or what they perceive as their position in the legislature, that they can do what they want to do. That's disarray. That's chaos. That's not what governance is supposed to be about. So what I say is that this, while the Second Amendment may be the deeper part of this, there's a bigger part, and that's about the preemption of these laws. As I had said, why would a city pass a law to penalize someone who was the victim of a crime? Folks, that gives me heartburn to think about. So that being said, I know there's a lot of people that want to talk about this, and I know there's a lot, especially maybe a partisan divide on your beliefs of the Second Amendment. But I believe that that is a sacred part of the Constitution. I've always said that the Constitution and God Almighty gave everybody a right to protect themselves and their property and their loved ones. But to me, it's absolutely astonishing to believe that someone could be charged with a crime and to a $1,000 fine and a penalty. Now, let me tell you something about these things. $1,000 don't mean much to some of you folks out there, but I tell you who it does mean something to. It means a lot to those working folks out there who get charged. Y'all remember a little bill that we were dealing with about the cameras? There's no recourse to a lot of them. They just sent a check and paid it. In this particular case, you get charged with a $1,000 penalty or $2,000 if you don't report it. Then they've got to hire a lawyer, Well, in our society, unfortunately, what the day we live in, that they can break you one way or they can break you the other. If you have to hire a lawyer and hire legal counsel to stop something, that's not fair, ladies and gentlemen. That's the reason the penalties are in here, so that they can be reimbursed for their legal expenses. But somebody's got to pay for those legal expenses first. Mr. Speaker, if there's no other questions, I'm sure we have plenty of folks who want to speak on and against this bill probably. But I would certainly appreciate your considerations to the argument. I would ask that you vote against violations of preemption. I would ask that you vote, quite frankly, for the base issue that creates this preemption. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I'll yield the will and appreciate your favorable consideration.
The gentleman has yielded the will. He did answer most of his questions, and we do have a lot of speakers on the bill. We have a number of folks signed up to speak opposed to and in favor of. Chair's going to hope you'll take 4 minutes and 30 seconds, but I will give you up to 5 minutes to speakers on the bill. You'll have the yellow light at 4:30, and you'll have the red light at 5. So we're going to hold all of those opposed and in favor per person. Don't anybody get excited. Thought you had a minute each, didn't you? We'll move forward to Representative Crawford, Amari Crawford. The gentleman is recognized to speak to the bill. Representative Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'll try to be as brief and within your time allotted. Friends, today I rise in opposition of Senate Bill 204. The bill started off as a bill that dealt with prosecutorial efficiency, and then language was added that would preempt local governance from trying to do what's right, and that is to protect their citizens. As a person that stands in this well, I know a little bit too much about hijacking of bills. And as you can imagine, I'm against it. Nonetheless, the speaker before me, and he is completely right, that this is a bill that deals with the Homeroom Act and preemption. Georgia counties and municipalities right now have the opportunity to draft ordinances, not laws, but ordinances that can protect the citizens within their local government. Those ordinances can only be drafted so long as it does not preempt what the state government says. The speaker before me is right that under OCGA 1611-173, there is already a preemption of any type of sale, transfer, purchase, or storage of firearms. In DeKalb County, we have tried to draft ordinances that would allow storage ordinances to be implemented, but preemption prohibited us from doing that. And so a lot of counties has tried to work around how do you save the people's lives in your districts by creating ordinances that would not be challenged by preemption. So the issue that I have is allow people in their counties to come up with some creative ways that they can decrease the amount of gunshots, the amount of deaths that occur inside of their counties because they have the numbers. What you see on your screen right now is a story from DeKalb County, the county that I'm from, where someone was actually murdered. A teenager was murdered because they were able to get inside of a get inside of someone's home, take a gun, and use that inside of a fight, and someone died. This happens all too often. I'm going to give you a few stats. In 2024, there were approximately 200 deaths and injuries that occurred with teenagers that were at least 17 years or younger because they were either killed again or injured from accidental discharges when they were able to get inside of closets, cars, and they killed themselves or others because they had access to guns. There have also been nationwide approximately 15,000 deaths similar. In Georgia, there have been about 2,000. So we have about 2,000 deaths that occur in this state. Now, the problem is that those 2,000 deaths that occur in this state are centrally located in the metro Atlanta area. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because there are counties in metro Atlanta area that are trying to create safe ways for people to have guns. I am not against the Second Amendment. If you have a gun and you are a lawful owner, have your gun. I don't have a problem with that. But if Fulton County, DeKalb County, Clayton County wants to create an ordinance that says we don't want our children to get inside of closets, to get inside of cars, take those guns and commit other crimes, then let the people in DeKalb County and Fulton County or whatever county to come up with creative ways to pass those ordinances. It should also be noted that this is a bill that is trying to do what really is already the law. If you look at, and if you have time and if you're so interested, if you look at an 11th Circuit case, the United States versus Gun, no pun intended, but if you look at the United States versus Gun, there is already a law that says that the state can preempt laws that deal with storage. So there is already a law for this. So you really don't have to pass this bill. This is something that is already in the law. So we don't really need to pass something that is already there. But what this does is that it doubles down on any type of effort from local governments to create, once again, safeguards and safe rails for ordinances. If you don't like a gun ordinance in whatever county that you come from, and let's say it's a small county that does not have that type of issue, then my suggestion is go to your city council, go to your commissioners, and tell them that you don't want the bill, or the ordinance rather, that would preempt or attempt to preempt gun safety storage. But if you come from a county like some of us come from, where that is a big deal, then again, let us do something to protect the children. That is what I am asking. I am asking that you oppose Senate Bill 204 because there are areas in this state where we need to be able to create these ordinances. I am a person from DeKalb County that understands the importance of allowing us to have the power of home rule, and I'm asking that you vote down 204 so that people who are from areas where this is an issue that happens on a daily basis allow us to do what we need to do to protect our children. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
The gentleman is yielded the well. Representative Roberts is recognized to speak to the bill. Thank you, Representative Crawford.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. It's not quite evening, I guess. I always like to start my speeches on guns. I know y'all know I'm opposed to this bill with I own a gun and it's stored safely at home. I am not anti-gun. But I'm wondering how many of you took the time to speak with the students and staff from Appalachia High School, students and family members who came to the Capitol while still in mourning. Last September, two 14-year-olds, Mason Schermerhorn and Christian Angulo, were gunned down at school. Coach Richard Aspinwall and Christina Irami, both teachers, died protecting their students. Children ran for cover. Parents got the call no parent should ever receive that their child might not come home. The students, staff, and families of Appalachia will carry that trauma of that day for the rest of their lives, and they are not alone. From metro Atlanta to rural Georgia, gun violence has become routine. Just 2 years ago, Amy St. Pierre was shot and killed at a Midtown doctor's office right up the way. Her husband lost his wife, and her children lost their mother. These aren't isolated incidents. In 2024, an average of 2,005 Georgians died by gun, 52% by suicide, 45% by homicide. And yet, what have we done? Nothing except expand access to guns. The Appalachia families have come here again and again asking you to pass common sense, safe storage laws. And how do we respond? With a bill that precludes safe storage laws? SB 204 is a slap in the face to those families. And for what? To punish Savannah for trying to prevent gun theft and violence? All they proposed was a civil penalty if someone left their gun unsecured in a car, it was stolen and used in a crime. Instead of supporting them, this bill blocks local leaders from protecting their communities and lets private citizens sue local governments for trying. Let's be clear, we're not just tying the hands of mayors and police chiefs, we are threatening them with legal and financial punishment. The hypocrisy here is astounding. Earlier this session, Many of you in this room voted for tort reform, saying Georgia is a judicial hellhole. Now you want to create a new private right of action against cities and counties that are trying to keep people safe. We haven't even passed the bill that encourages safe storage and safety training through a simple tax rebate. Wow. And don't say that's the Senate's fault. We all know when House leadership wants to get something done, it gets done. So let's be honest, this majority party has prioritized gun lobbyists over Georgia's children. You're creating a $25,000 legal threat against local governments, small towns that can't afford the risk, and you're doing it to support a senator who disrespected 2 of our speakers and threatened our House staff. You're siding with him over grieving families in Barrow County. If you won't pass safe storage laws, at least don't slap these families in the face with this political retribution bill. To those of you supporting SB 204 out of concern for the Second Amendment, I understand. But rights come with responsibilities, and our responsibility as lawmakers is to protect life. Not just the rights of gun owners, but the lives of the innocent. The students of Appalachia were just trying to learn. Their parents were just trying to get through a normal day. SB 204 won't make anyone safer. It won't stop the next shooting. It might make it harder to prevent. We should be passing laws to support safe storage, background checks, and red flag laws, not bills that prioritize lawsuits over lives. This isn't a theoretical debate. It is life and death. It's lockdowns, ER visits, funerals. It's trauma children carry into adulthood. Dreams ended by a single bullet. We cannot keep expanding gun rights while ignoring gun deaths. So today, I'm not just asking, I've done it before, I've begged, and I'm begging again. Vote no on SB 204 for Appalachia, for your communities, for your conscience. Thank you. I yield the well.
Thank you. The lady has yielded the well. Representative Berry is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in the strongest opposition to SB 204. I would love to support the original version of SB 204, a bipartisan measure that would reduce recidivism rates in our state. But instead, here we are debating another big government control bill with SB 163 or 204, whatever you want to call it. There is too much to begin with what's wrong with this bill. There are the process and procedural issues, there are the issues of local subversion, and there are the issues of constitutionality. But the biggest issue for me is that we are here to talk about a bill that is so dangerous, so absurd, and so deeply unserious that I have to wonder, was this made in a signal chat full of gun lobbyists? Did somebody say, hey, you know what would be fun? Making it easier to sue cities for keeping people from getting shot? And everyone just sent a fist and an American flag and a fire emoji? It's funny, but it would be even funnier if it wasn't a slap in the face to local control, to public safety, and to basic common sense. I am tired of watching this chamber make it easier to carry guns than to vote, than to get health care, than to afford rent. The people of this state are sick and tired of that false choice too. And instead of listening to the people of Georgia, instead of tackling gun violence, what does this bill do? It lets people sue cities and counties for trying to protect their own residents. Let's break down just how ridiculous this process has been. This bill was rushed through committee, failed, and then brought back from the dead. No real public hearings, no real input from law enforcement, no consultation with communities that will suffer the most. The people who are begging for gun safety laws, ignored. The city leaders that are trying to keep our streets safe, ignored. The parents who don't want their kids caught in the crossfire, ignored. But guess who wasn't ignored? The gun lobbyists. They had a front row seat while this thing got pushed through. This tort scam intensified. And guess who pays? Not the gun companies, not the lawmakers that are pushing this, the taxpayers. Look, this bill basically says to cities, not only can you not protect your own people, but don't worry, we will let gun activists sue you for trying. That's like banning seatbelts and then letting reckless drivers sue the DMV for suggesting they buckle up. Look, we just had an election where Georgia's made it clear they want stronger gun safety measures. They voted for leaders who promised to take action against gun violence. But instead of respecting the will of the people, this bill does the opposite. It silences their voices and overrides the very officials they elected to protect their communities in the first place. This isn't just bad policy, it's just a blatant disregard for democracy. And you know what else doesn't matter under this bill? Local governments. Your mayor wants common sense gun laws? Too bad. Your city council wants to keep guns out of parks and playgrounds? Sorry, can't do it. You want safer streets? Well, you better cross your fingers because SB 163 says good luck with that. Look, by trade, I'm a numbers guy. I'm an economics major from Morehouse, so we talk about that a lot. So I believe in facts, not fear-mongering. And here's the fact. Gun violence is the #1 cause of death for children in America. Not video games, not TikTok trends, guns. And yet instead of addressing that, we're debating a bill that does nothing but create more lawsuits, more legal fees, more headaches for local governments, all will make it harder to keep people safe. I don't know about y'all. I did not come to this chamber to be a glorified defense attorney for the gun lobby. If this body actually cares about law and order, then let's start by keeping guns out of the hands of criminals. But instead, SB 163, or SB 204, whatever you want to call it, does the opposite. It punishes local leaders for trying to keep their cities safe, it shields dangerous policies from accountability, and it ignores the people we were elected to serve. So to my colleagues who are still undecided, I urge you to think about the communities we represent. Our job is to listen to the people of Georgia and make decisions that keep them safe. This monstrosity of a bill does not do that. I want to close with a scripture, Ezekiel 22:30. I looked for someone among them who would build up a wall and stand before me in the gap for those who cannot stand for themselves. Right now, our children, our families, and our communities need us to stand up for their safety. Let us not be silent in this moment. Let us not be found unwilling to act. Instead, let us do what's right. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Representative Edna Jackson. Representative Jackson is recognized to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I sat here today and I listened, sat here today and listened to all of the statements that were made, and I saw what this bill was all about. And I'm going to tell you, if you recall when I first got here, I had a nephew that had been killed in the city of Savannah by someone that went in, stole a gun, and shot him, stole his car. And thank God for our police officers. They were able to get him. He's still in jail, but has not come to trial. But this morning, as I was reading my email, I received an email regarding this bill. And I was ordered to vote for this bill. And I was ordered that why I should vote for it was because the city of Savannah is trying to make us safer by saying that you must lock your cars and that you must lock your glove compartments because you know that there are people going around trying to break into them. That was to protect me and every resident in our community. But the problem is that I was told that we didn't need to listen to what our city government was doing, but ours should listen to people that want to do whatever they want to do with their guns. I want my city to help to protect our children, our senior citizens, and all of the people that come to our community. Why am I standing up here? I want to tell you because in this communication that I received, I was told that either I do it or, and I'm going to read it verbally. Savannah, it says, Georgia gun owners will keep me informed of your vote and what happens to this bill. In capital letters, I will be watching what you do, how you vote, and will tell everyone I know to vote for or against you depending on your performance on this and other gun issues. Well, y'all know I don't like guns. I will try to vote you out of office if your performance is not acceptable on this issue. Well, I'm saying to you, think about residents in your community that need to be protected. Think about the children in your communities that need to be. I am happy that we made a decision to protect it by saying if you are not going to take care of what is inside your car that could take a life, then you don't even need to be there. So I want you to know, my colleagues, as I stand here this afternoon, I want you to know that I need your support, and I need your support so that communities can make their own decisions of how they're going to protect our people against gun violence. By telling them to lock them in their cars, in locked boxes, in their homes. I have a gun, but it's locked up. And I don't even like guns. But I want to please vote with me. And I'm making it a personal thing since it's a personal attack. Please vote no.
The gentle lady has yielded the well. Members, I'm going to take just a moment of personal privilege and recognize a former member that's on the floor. If you'll join me in welcoming the former Camilla Hobson, who is now Camilla Jackson. She represented Albany in House District 153, and she's here with her husband, Derek Jackson. Thank you for joining us, former Representative Jackson. We're moving on to the proponents of the, I'm sorry, we do have another speaker to speak against the bill. The chair recognizes Representative Rahman to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker Pro Tem. Colleagues, it appears some of you have misplaced a pair of spherical objects today, and it is making me furious. And let me explain. With deep respect to those who are engaging on this issue seriously, and I mean that sincerely. My opposition to this bill, in addition to what we're going to be talking about from policy position, is the fact that I firmly believe we should not be rewarding those who threaten our staffers with policy. And what do I mean by that? This bill, as one of my colleagues mentioned, is actually Senate Bill 168. And unfortunately, with Senate Bill 168, the supporters of that bill actually posted a video calling out by name a staffer who works for us and said, "Come burn their desk." An actual staff member that works for us, that has never done anything but do their job, and who was essentially doxxed on the internet. And for what? For following orders? And the thing that really boggles my mind is that, sure, the name of the original author of the bill and those supporters are not at the top of this legislation. But the thing I've learned being here for 3 terms now, or 3 sessions now, is that when you're in the minority party, you sneeze wrong and your bill dies. It happens. It's fine. It is what it is. When you're the majority party, you sneeze wrong and a bill moves out of rules. Also fine. It happens. We saw it happen on Wednesday. It was great. But for me personally, I really think that there should be a red line, a line that none of us will ever cross, no matter how much we want this policy. I don't care if this bill is about puppies and unicorns and everybody gets a free one. I don't care if it's my most important policy positions. You do not get to threaten our staff and then get your policy and your bill on our floor within a week. That is a deep and sincere belief of mine. There has to be a red line. There has to be something that says, sure, you want to be a part of the legislative process, whether you are elected or not elected, you are an advocate, a friend in the hall, whatever it is, a constituent, it doesn't matter. We love to hear your voice. We love to have you come down. I beg my constituents, I beg my people who aren't my constituents to come here all the time. All the time. Please come and work on these bills with us. But I will tell you this, if any of them ever threaten a staffer, ever, to me that is a red line. It should be a red line for all of us. The reality is that we will always debate bills. We will always debate policy. We will always have differing positions. But I deeply believe this is one of those that there should be no daylight between any of us. Bring it up next year. Bring it up as a clean bill by an author from this chamber, something that we own. And here's the other thing, speaking of procedure. Last I checked, in addition to sneezing correctly in here, you're supposed to be able to go toe-to-toe with the Speaker's General Counsel and win to get your bill on our floor. Not lose and still get your bill on our floor. Yeah, I said what I said. Colleagues, I don't like the precedent we're setting here. I really don't. I actually think it's way bigger than this bill. Like, deeply and sincerely. And again, with all due respect to the amazing policy discussions we're having, the stories we're hearing, the sort of like moving stories of victims that we are going to continue to hear about today, it should not have to take somebody from the minority party and a woman to stand up here and say, you know what, we are going to protect our honor and our dignity in this chamber. It should not have to be me saying this. It should not have to be me saying we should be protecting our staff and drawing this red line. And I am deeply, deeply disappointed to see this bill on our floor. I really, really thought we were better than this. At some point, we have to have a red line. And I hope as you hear about the policy, you think about the policy, you consider it, I hope you also think about the bigger picture of what it means to pass this bill today. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield the will.
The lady has yielded the well. The chair recognizes Chairman Jaspers to speak for the bill.
I rise in favor of Chairman Powell's Senate Bill 204. You know, we talk about preemption a lot here in the last little bit. You know, it's common to be used here. It is where the higher levels of government tell the lower levels what they can do or what they can't do. You know, we do it a lot. There'll be bills passed today or passed on Wednesday and on Monday that tell counties, school systems, law enforcement, and on what they have to do. As a member said earlier, we are the lawmakers, so we do get that opportunity to do that. You know, these bills are hotly debated in preemption. The cities and counties do try to defend their role, but we get to make the decision. You know, as Chairman Powell said a few moments ago, we passed preemption on Second Amendment rights years ago. And we've adjusted our laws many times over the years, making them better for Georgia's citizens, and making for sure, and one thing that's been my goal over these years is to make sure that they can carry a weapon where they choose to, and they don't have to store it in their car. You know, and we've worked very hard to do that. I'm very supportive of this bill, and I think we get lost in some of all the rhetoric, but the important part about this is that a Georgian, when he goes into my town, your town, any town, knows how to act, knows how to carry their weapon, knows where to put it, knows where not to, and where they can go and where they can't go. It makes it clear and uniform law. And I hope you vote for this and join Chairman Powell and many of us who support our Second Amendment rights. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. There is a minority report, and the chair recognizes Representative Evans for the minority report.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I rise in opposition to Senate Bill 204. Now, we know state law preempts nearly any local gun rule, regulation, ordinance, or resolution. That's already true. We don't have to do anything to change that. Local laws relating to guns are only allowed in the areas where we say they can exist. And in this bill, we're adding storage laws to the list of things where we are not going to allow a city to regulate. So without this bill, local governments have been able to regulate storage laws, for example, like requiring folks to lock their car doors if they have a gun inside so that it won't get stolen and commit a crime. And others have talked to you about why that's a bad idea not to allow those kinds of common sense laws by local governments. But I want to spend a little bit of time talking about another problem with this bill that we haven't talked about yet, I don't think. This bill, if you look with me at lines 80, starting on line 81, this bill says that anyone, quote, who is or has been subject to or aggrieved by a rule, regulation, ordinance, or resolution that they think is in violation of the limits that this legislature set on laws that local governments can set, can haul city officials to court to defend those laws. Now let me say that again. You don't have to be aggrieved by a local law. You just have to be subject to it. And you don't even have to be subject to it. You could have been subject to it in the past. You could have moved. You never got fined. You never got arrested. You never got charged. You just think the local government has passed a law that goes beyond the preemption, and you want to make somebody prove it. You haul them into court. This bill allows you to do it. Old law didn't do that. Old law said you had to be aggrieved. This bill does not say that. You don't have to be damaged. You can bring them in for injunctive relief. There's two sections about how you haul them into court. One for injunction, one for damages. So just again, you don't have to be charged. You don't have to be arrested. You don't have to be fined. You don't have to be convicted. You don't even have to live there anymore. You just have to think that one of these laws goes too far and you want to bring the city official in to account for it. That seems like a lot. We're setting up a system where a person who is or did live in a jurisdiction where a local law was passed can haul city officials in to make them defend a law. And there's no place in this law that says if the city official was hauled in and they found that the law was just fine, that the city gets paid back. No. Think about the advocacy groups in this state or across the country that would love to gin up residents or former residents just to make them prove it. Y'all know I'm right. This is going to chill local governments from doing even what we allow them to do. But I do want to talk about storage again for just a moment. As I said when I started, this law would add gun storage as an area where we are not going to allow local governments to try. Now, this House had a priority this year and at least last year and probably before that too, to make encouraging of storage of guns safely a priority. let me say that again. This House had a priority to encourage the safe storage of guns. We passed House Bill 79 this year, 165 to 8. Last year, we passed a bill, House Bill 971, 162 to 3. Both of those bills would have provided a tax credit for gun owners who bought a safe storage device. Our priority, the House's priority, was to encourage safe storage. Under this bill, when a local government does exactly what we wanted to do, encourage safe storage, they're going to get sued. And not doesn't even have to be by anybody who's been damaged by it. This is not our priority, y'all. Our priority is the opposite. This is the Senate's priority. The Senate didn't pass our bill last year, obviously. They didn't pass it this year. To add insult to injury, they gutted it. They don't care about our priorities, but somehow we are chomping at the bit to grab theirs. And not just any Senate priority, but a Senate priority. Lead sponsor, the senator who disrespected this House over and over, our current and former speaker, sued our staff, essentially spit in our face any chance he got. And we're like, give me what he wants. I want to do that. They got our bill, we pick up theirs. This first section, Senate Bill 163, is Colton Moore's bill. This is not anyone else's bill. This is his bill. So once again, we yield to other priorities, not ours. I'm going to close with this because I'm reminded of a song. I won't sing, but I'm going to talk about the song. It reminds me of a song by the late, great Toby Keith. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about me. I want to talk about I want to talk about number one, oh my, me, my, what I think, what I like, what I know, what I want, what I see. I like talking about you usually, but occasionally, I want to talk about me. Occasionally, can it be about the House? Does it always got to be about the Senate or somebody else? They ignored our priorities on storage for multiple years, and now we just pick up their priority from someone who disrespects this body every chance he gets. I just don't get it, y'all. Please join me and vote no. I yield.
The lady has yielded the well. The chair recognizes Representative Willis to speak for the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. I rise today in opposition to Senate Bill 204. This bill, as originally drafted by the Senate Minority Leader, was a really good bill, originally aimed at procedural criminal justice reform. Quite simply has been hijacked to undermine local authority. And I don't know about you, but I stand with my local leaders and not against them. And for me, that's the city of Atlanta, and that's Fulton County. This substitute allows individuals to sue local governments for regulating weapons. And a weapons carrier can file a lawsuit and recover damages and attorney's fees, opening the floodgates to harassment lawsuits against not only city councils, but law enforcement. Now, what works in your county may not necessarily be best for mine. And in Atlanta and Fulton County, we're doing something right. So we're nationally ranked number 4 in the nation for economic development. We do all right. So hold up, wait a minute, if y'all thought I was finished. We've spent the bulk of this legislative session hearing about how frivolous lawsuits are running people and businesses out of Georgia, that they are the bane of our existence, and yet less than a week later, once again, we are presented with a bill that sets the stage for what actually sounds magnetic for more lawsuits, but go off. How will we defend taxpayer-funded lawsuits from anyone who says their gun rights were infringed by a city ordinance? So who are we? Who are we as a state body to continue to reach into localities to dictate to them what we feel is proper? What message does this send to any mayor or to a city council? William Hazlitt once said that the only vice that cannot be forgiven is hypocrisy. Elected local officials should regulate public safety, and we should stay in our lane. And we should stay in our lane. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I yield the remainder of time to the gentle Lady Westbrook of Savannah's 163rd District. Thank you.
The lady has yielded the well, and the chair recognizes Representative Westbrook to speak on the bill.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and good afternoon, colleagues. I rise today in strong opposition to Senate Bill 204 because it retaliates against the duly elected leadership of the city I represent and against my constituents themselves. It makes Georgia's communities less safe, and it violates the public policy that this body communicated to Georgians that we value, which is safe firearm storage. This is not a reinforcement bill. This is a retaliation bill. It was Fulton County's turn on Wednesday. I guess it's Savannah's turn today. But I'm here to speak for my community. This is a Franken bill. It started out as a perfectly good bill, and it was hijacked by a far-right senator who I am confused as to why this body wants to carry his water, but that's apparently what we're going to do. This senator openly stated that he was targeting the ordinance passed by my city council, despite the fact that he represents a district nowhere near my district, suburbs of Chattanooga basically, but he wants to tell us how we need to handle our business in Savannah. I represent a district that is mostly comprised of in-town neighborhoods within the city of Savannah. It is a dense urban district made up of some affluent neighborhoods and also some neighborhoods that still show the persistent, lingering effects of segregation, of underinvestment, of poverty. And social science data and criminology data tell us that in districts that are suffering from those persistent, lingering effects of our past sins, that there are challenges. And some of my district has those challenges. Food insecurity, housing insecurity, lack of access to quality education, lack of access to good jobs, lack of access to childcare. And so we have some challenges, and safety can be one of those in my district. So on top of considering the needs of Savannahans, all Savannahans, we've got an additional challenge. We are a district, we are a city that is visited by people from all over the world, from all over the U.S., and from all over the state of Georgia. And we have to worry about them too, and we do. But we welcome them. We ask them to come and walk our squares and eat our seafood, including the Georgia shrimp we've done so much to promote and protect in this chamber. We ask them to have a good time, eat, drink, be merry. All we ask is after you have enjoyed yourself, when it's time for you to go home, please do not leave our community less safe than you found it. Tell me what is unreasonable about that. We have an ordinance. It does not, contrary to some of the misinformation that you heard earlier, it does nothing to people who lock their cars. Nothing. All our ordinance asks is if you bring your guns to town, and Johnny Cash said you shouldn't do that. We don't go that far. If you bring your guns to town, lock them in your car if you leave them. Just lock them in your car. That's it. In Georgia, you can take them everywhere. Y'all made that available. You can take them in a restaurant. You can take them in a bar and have a few drinks. You can take them with you. If you leave them in your car, lock your car. It's not that hard, y'all. This is a particular issue for our district. I know y'all think that we need to make all the rules up here and just tell all the cities how to do it, but my city's not like your city. My city's not like your town. My city is not like the 2,000 strong in population town of the senator who filed this bill. Our issues are different. We have a dense urban plan. It's why people love to visit us. We've got sidewalks right next to on-street parking, and we have a problem with people walking down those sidewalks and trying car door after car door after car door. Which one is going to be unlocked? Which one can I pop into quickly and see if I can find a gun lying right there? That is what they are looking for. Every time I go to a neighborhood meeting in my district, every single time we start with a public safety report, and a Savannah Police Department officer stands up and says to the neighbors, please lock your car. Please lock your car if you leave a firearm in it. Every single time we get that request. In 2024, 266 guns were reported stolen from vehicles in Savannah. Of those 266, 228 were stolen out of unlocked vehicles, 86%. Again, we're just asking that people lock their cars. I'll also mention our ordinance also protects you when you visit our city. It protects you from being victims of theft. Once your firearm is stolen, you've lost your personal property. You can't use it for protection. You can't use it for anything at all. A thief can. The thief who gets your gun, they get to use it, but you don't get to use it anymore. Some of y'all are so worried about a propagandized government that is coming for your guns. You are actually up here fighting a local government trying to help you hang on to them. Make it make sense. For my constituents and me, our ordinance also protects us. It protects us from what can happen when a gun, which is otherwise just a tool and an object, from what can happen when that gets in the wrong hands. When that happens, my community now has yet another firearm in the hands of someone who did not buy it from a federally licensed firearms dealer and did not go through a background check. To state the obvious, if someone is willing to steal a gun, by definition, they are not law-abiding. They probably don't have a lot of reservations about using it for another unlawful purpose or selling it to someone else who wants to use it for an unlawful purpose. Someone who cannot just walk into a gun shop and pass a background check. So that is what my city's leaders were trying to address to keep our people safe. Savannah passed this ordinance on April 11th of last year. It has not even been a year. By May 1st, a test plaintiff had been found to sue the city of Savannah. So much for cracking down on frivolous lawsuits. This test plaintiff was not a citizen of Savannah, had never been cited pursuant to the ordinance. He basically said, I don't have power locks and it's just too much effort for me to walk around to the other side of my car and lock the door so that y'all can be safe. Just couldn't muster up the effort. In November of last year, his lawsuit was dismissed because he had suffered no injury in fact. That will change if y'all pass this law. And he lacked standing to bring the suit. For the lawyers know about standing, and probably a lot of y'all do too, but quite literally, it's just not his business, is essentially what the court was saying. The people whose business it is, my constituents, they are not suing the city council that passed this ordinance. They are electing and re-electing them. Savannahans are not suing their city over this ordinance because they welcome it. They know it's needed. They are tired of having the debates on their neighborhood Facebook pages. Every city dweller in Georgia knows this. What was that sound? Gunshots or fireworks? When irresponsible people shoot into the air in rural parts of Georgia, the bullets come down on pine trees. When irresponsible people do that in our metro communities, they come down on roofs. They come down on hoods of cars. Ask me how I know about that particular one. And sometimes they even come down on people. So what works in y'all's area might not work in my area. My constituents are living with the real costs of this. The costs of how unwilling y'all are to ask gun owners, who you have assured us are all completely responsible people, to perform the simplest tasks related to safety and responsibility. This bill also violates the expressed public policy we told Georgians that we hold. When we passed the safe storage tax credit, we told Georgians that safe storage of firearms is something that we value. And I think it's worth remembering a little bit about the history of that bill. That was an idea brought by one of my Democratic colleagues. Some of y'all kind of got the idea that was a pretty good bill. And by the time we passed it, your names were all over that bill. One of your caucus was the author. Your names were in the 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 spot. And some of y'all, during the last campaign season, went back to your districts and you told your constituents and your voters that you care about safe storage. And I hope that's true, because we're about to find out in just a few minutes. We're about to find out how much y'all value that. We're about to find out if you care about safety for Georgians or if you care about appeasing extremists. And I'll tell you, I've got a bad feeling that when we adjourn tonight, the only legislation the General Assembly will have passed to address the #1 killer of Georgia's children and teens is one that makes it easier for people to sue cities that try to pass safe storage. My time is running out. There are a lot of things we could do on this issue. We could pass background checks. They cut every category of gun violence in half. They cut trafficking down. My city is also near I-95, kind of important for the iron pipeline of gun trafficking. There are so many things we could do we have not done. But y'all want to micromanage local governments instead. You said you've done things to make it better. What you've done is you passed guns everywhere. You've decimated our permit carrying system, the only real background check system we had. You have failed to keep Georgians safe, and your voters are going to watch, and they are going to hold you accountable if you go after cities today instead of living up to what you said were your values of safe storage for Georgians. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield the well.
The lady has yielded the well. For what purpose does Representative Park rise?
Thank you, Speaker Pro Tem. I move that the rule substitute to Senate Bill 204 be laid on the table.
The minority whip has made the motion that the bill be laid on the table. All those in favor will, is there objection? There is objection. All those in favor of laying the bill on the table will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machine.
Have all members voted? Have all members voted? Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine on the gentleman's motion to table? The motion has failed. The yeas are 75, the nays are 95. We're moving on to chair's time. We have up to 25 minutes for chairman's time. 20 minutes, I apologize. 20 minutes. House will come to order. Have up to 20 minutes for the chair's time. Chairman Tyler Paul Smith is recognized to speak to the proposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, good afternoon, members of this august body. I'm going to end up yielding some time to some other members on this, but I want to point something out here that's very important. Not one person in opposition to this legislation pointed out where the home rule statutes allow a city to circumvent not only this issue before us, but any issue. I'll call to your remembrance, for municipalities at least, those are a creation of this body. And if they are circumventing the laws of this state, it needs to be corrected. I don't know if any of y'all pay attention, but we're a meat grinder down there in 132 a lot of times. If we find something that is preempted by federal code, we do our darndest to make sure that is taken out of the bill. It would be very nice if municipalities and counties would pay us the same courtesy. I get aggravated with it all the time. It just puts a burr under my saddle. I've got some simple advice here. Those cities and counties worried about litigation. If you don't attempt to circumvent state law, you won't have to worry about being sued. Easy. Motion to dismiss. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'm going to yield the remaining balance of my time to the Majority Leader of this House and Chairman Powell.
Leader F. Strache is recognized to speak to the bill. You'll allocate the remainder of the time with Chairman Powell.
Yes, sir. Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today in strong support of Senate Bill 204, and I want to go through some of the arguments that were made by the minority party when the bill was being debated and in chairman's time. But ultimately, this is an affirmation of our strong and unwavering support of the Second Amendment. And this legislation ensures that Georgians are protected from government overreach, that Georgians are able to remain under the blanket of public safety by being able to defend themselves, and that ultimately when we have circumstances where local governments are taking action contrary to our preemption laws, that there are consequences in place in code to address it. Now, at the heart of Senate Bill 204, there's a clear principle. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, not by Congress and not by a state, and certainly not by a local government, a county or municipal government. Georgians should be able to know that as they travel to different parts of the state, be it Savannah or any other location, that their right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Now, recent actions by the city of Savannah's liberal government have placed those rights in jeopardy, leaving lawful gun owners open to punishment simply because a criminal breaks into their, say, vehicle and steals a firearm. Now, just think about that for a minute. If a criminal breaks into my vehicle and steals my Glock, and I call the police to respond, and then I'm the one arrested, it's outrageous. We already have preemption to protect Georgians' Second Amendment rights in the code. And when that is being circumvented, it's necessary that we update the law to address that. Now, getting into the specifics which were raised, yes, there are paths here that can be sought. If a person is subjected to or aggrieved by these kinds of local government acts, rules, regulations, ordinances, that they would have options. There would be the ability to seek a petition for mandamus or seek injunctive relief from the court to ask that this violation of their rights is addressed in a courtroom. But then there is also a damages option. If they have suffered as a result of the action of the local government, they would be able to go to court, and very clearly it is specified the damages that they could seek, including attorney's fees. And if it's necessary to pursue that through an appellate path, liquidated damages that would ensure recovery under those circumstances. This bill doesn't just preempt local overreach now or potentially in the future. It empowers citizens, and it allows lawful weapons carriers to bring legal action against a local government or local office that violates this section of the law. That's not just good law, it's good constitutional stewardship for Georgians, protecting their constitutional rights from being infringed at the local level and giving them a clear path to address it in our court system. Colleagues, this legislation is about more than just firearms. It's about the rule of law. And it's about ensuring that Georgians are not subjected to the whims of local politics. It's about honoring our oaths, in my view, to adhere to the U.S. Constitution, which could not be more explicit, and the right of the people to keep and bear arms. We have an opportunity today. We have an opportunity to stand together to vote in favor of Senate Bill 204 to protect the rights of our citizens, to speak clearly where others sow confusion, and to affirm that in Georgia, the Constitution and the Second Amendment still means what it says. And Mr. Speaker, I yield the well. I yield the remainder of the time to Chairman Powell.
Chairman Alan Powell is recognized to speak to the bill for the remainder of the chair's time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and ladies and gentlemen. You know, I didn't think this was going to be an easy task, but, you know, I've heard a lot of what ifs. I've heard some things and comments made by the opponents to this bill, and I understand politics. This hadn't got anything to do with most of y'all's minds in opposition about what's right or about what preemption really means to the law. You've heard some of the skilled jurists, Chairman Paul Smith, Leader Effistration, talk about what law is really about and about the need. And that's the need that we have structure. I've heard comments from some of the distinguished members of the minority party today, but most of all of it was about their opposition to the Second Amendment. I don't think I heard a whole lot about the preemption, but it was about their opposition. I heard some comments that were hurtful to me when I hear people talk about and quote the tragedy at Appalachia and try to compare it to this. Shame on you. Shame on you. Because there's not a soul in this building that would ever try to mix those two subjects. I see it. But I see the politics of this, ladies and gentlemen. It's all about what we want. It's about a political position that I'm opposed to the Second Amendment. There's a proper way to do that. There's a proper way. Let me tell you a little bit. I sat there and I thought about the preemptions. So if you think, for those of y'all who think that local governments should be able to preempt the law, so let's talk about the Bill of Rights. Let's talk about freedom of speech. Let's talk about freedom of religion. What if somebody didn't want a mosque? What if they didn't want a synagogue in their district? What if they didn't want to allow women the right to vote and they just passed a preempted law? That's what preemption's about. What about the civil rights law? What about the civil rights law? I'm a realtor. What about the fair housing? We got a lot of people that have concerns about fair housing. But what if a local jurisdiction passed laws against the Fair Housing Act or redlining? I deal with this a lot of times in my professional life, and I have to stand up and actually leave before I can even listen to that kind of talk about preempting, because my professional business license would be in jeopardy. So I want to talk about that preemption. And those of y'all who want to talk about the Second Amendments and the need to ban this or to ban that, then mobilize your forces and go after it. But this is more about preemption. Yes, I am a strong Second Amendment supporter, but this is about allowing local governments to step across that line. I heard the good lady talk about shooting guns into the air. There's nothing that says you can't discharge a weapon. That's part of the provisions of local government under their codes and all. But when you talk about charging someone for a crime for having a weapon stolen, that is a violation. This hasn't got anything to do with frivolous litigation. This is about doing what is right. And I'm going to part with one comment. For every matter before you that you don't do the right thing, then it will come back at some point. Those things that we do that are a violation of somebody's rights, it will come back to you in some other shape, form, or fashion. Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of talk about this. We've burned a lot of hours on this, or an hour or so. But I would ask the members of this House to vote in favor of this legislation, and let's stop this practice. If nothing else, it sends a message that the growing kudzu that creeps across a lot of the political subdivisions today, that this has got to stop on this subject, and maybe it might have an impact on other subjects. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the time.
Gentleman has yielded the well. That completes the chairman's time. That completes the discussion on Senate Bill 204. Is there any objection withdrawing the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is withdrawn. Is there any objection to adopting the substitute order offered by the Committee on Rules? Hearing none, the Rules Committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine? Have all members voted? All members voted. For what purpose does Chairman Petrie rise?
Parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it not true that sadly we have 48,000 firearm deaths a year in the United States, 27,000 of which are suicides and 19,000 of which are homicides, that exponentially more than that, guns are used in the prevention of crime over 2.5 million times a year, including in the instance of 400,000 life-threatening crimes avoided by the protection and the defensive use of firearms. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Have all members now voted? If so, Mr. Clerk, will you lock the machine? On the passage of Senate Bill 204, the yeas are 99, the nays are 74. Bill having received the requisite constitutional majority is therefore passed. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 179, Well, hold up 1 second, Mr. Clerk. Spin, I want to have this body recognize the former dean of this house, a man who served this state, who served health care in this state and was recognized for that service a few days ago, from the great city of Columbus, Georgia, our dear friend, the house's friend, whose portrait graces the front of this building as you walk in, former Representative Chairman Calvin Smyrie. Ladies and gentlemen, another very distinguished guest that's blessed us here on day 40 is the mayor of one of the greatest cities in America, our own capital city, the city of Atlanta, Mayor Andre Dickens. Mayor, glad to have you. We appreciate you taking time to come over. You've always been our friend, and we're glad to be your friend. Thank you so much for what you do. Mr. Clerk, will you read the caption to Senate Bill 179?
Senate Bill 179 by Senators Dixon of the 45th and others to be titled an act to amend Chapter 2 of Title 20 of the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to elementary and secondary education, so as to require that the academic and disciplinary records of each transferring student shall be provided by such student's previous school to the receiving school within 5 days. This bill having referred to the Committee on Education, that committee recommends that this bill do pass by committee substitute.
Representative Bethany Ballard is recognized to present Senate Bill 179. Representative Ballard.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As colleagues, as so often happens at this time of the year, the title of the original title of the bill doesn't really have anything to do with what's actually in the bill. We subbed language in Education Committee, and it was vetted by the House Education Committee, so we don't have to worry about that. This bill will require students to take a computer science class or a CTAE course embedded with computer science beginning in the 2031-32 school year. It changes the reimbursement cost of tuition for the Georgia Virtual School because that has not been adjusted since 2012. And it requires private online virtual schools to report enrollment to the student's home school district, and this is for purposes of keeping up with attendance so that we can get a handle on this chronic absenteeism policy. Mr. Speaker, that's the bill, and I will yield for any questions.
Lady has no questions.
Thank you. I ask your favorable consideration. I yield the well.
Lady had no questions. Representative McQueen is recognized to speak to the bill. Representative McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, colleagues. Today I rise in strong support of Senate Bill 179. Because as a teacher, I see firsthand how quickly our world is changing and how urgently we need to ensure our students are ready to meet that change head on. This bill is about preparing Georgia's students not just for graduation, but for a life in a digital, fast-moving world. SB 179 makes computer science a graduation requirement, starting with the class of 2037. I can't believe I just said that out loud. I want to be clear, this is not just about learning code, right? So when we think about computer science, we think about C++ and Java. It's not just that. It is about learning how to think. It is about logic, creativity, resilience, and the ability to approach problems from multiple angles. Whether a student wants to go into agriculture, arts, or medicine, these skills are essential. But right now,
Less than half of 1% of Georgia high school graduates have taken a computer science course, and as an educator, I find this deeply concerning. Our students are growing up surrounded by technology, but they don't understand how it works or how they can shape it instead of being shaped by it. Meanwhile, thousands of jobs in our state are going unfilled because we lack workers with the necessary tech skills. Computer science is no longer just for tech companies. It's for farmers using data to increase crop yields. It's for nurses navigating electronic health records. It's for small business owners using e-commerce platforms to grow. Digital literacy is essential, and computer science is the foundation. I have seen students light up from STEM lessons when they realize that they can build something real from nothing but an idea and a keyboard. It's powerful. That is the kind of empowerment this bill provides. It tells every student in Georgia, you belong in this future and you can build it. SB 179 also understands that access matters. It allows students to take the required course anytime between grades 8 through 12. It counts towards their math credit, science credit, CTAE credit, fine arts, world languages, or an elective credit. So students don't have to choose between learning a vital skill and completing graduation requirements, giving them the flexibility to pursue their passions while still gaining the tools they need. It also increases funding for Georgia Virtual School, raising the tuition cap so more students, especially in rural or underserved areas, can take quality computer science courses online. That's critical. Because where a student's lives should never determine, because where a student lives, should never determine the opportunities that they have. Just as important, this bill invests in teachers. It funds professional development grants to help educators become certified to teach computer science regardless of their background. Because we know our students can't succeed if we don't also invest in the people who are facilitating the instruction in the classroom. Technology is evolving at lightning speed. If you had told this chamber 20 years ago that we'd one day have platforms that can generate lifelike images, answer complex questions in seconds, or even help write some of our speeches, I think many of us would have laughed. The pace of change can feel overwhelming even for us, and that's exactly why we must invest in preparing students not to just keep up, but to lead. With the rise of tools like ChatGPT and other AI platforms, it's clear these technologies aren't a passing trend, they're shaping the future. And Georgia students need to understand how they work because they're not going away. They're here to stay. Colleagues, this is about readiness. It's about equity, it's about economic development, but more than anything, it's about our kids. Every single one of them deserves a shot at a future where they're not just surviving, but thriving. A future where they understand that the world they live in and have the skills to change it. What am I talking about? I urge your support for SB 179. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield the well.
Thank you. The ladies yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? Hearing none, the previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to adopting the committee substitute? Hearing none, the committee substitute is adopted. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? Hearing none, the report of the committee is agreed to. Shout, this bill now pass. All in favor of the passage of the bill will vote yes. All those opposed will vote no. And Mr. Clerk, will you unlock the machine?